I call the meeting and Security Committee in order at this time. I would like to ask that we be offered a prayer as we begin our meeting by Representative Horn.
Father, we thank you for today. We thank you for everything you've given us, your mercy, and we thank you most of all for your Son who came to earth and died to atone for all of our sins. Forgive us, help us to grow our faith, and be with us today. May you give us wisdom so that we might make good decisions, and may we conduct ourselves in a manner that's pleasing to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Seeing that we have a quorum, we will continue to meet at 8 o'clock normally on a Thursday morning when need arises, and that'll probably be every week. There will also be some times in between our regular meeting time on Thursdays at 8 o'clock. We'll be meeting in this room so that we have a little more direct contact with each of you that's out there, and not the pillows that we had in the previous room. So that's one of the reasons for moving down here. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank the committee members for also being here. And I see that we've got two of our committee members that did not get introduced at the last meeting. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. Okay, Representative Boyer, Fraser? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I apologize. We had 3 meetings at 8 o'clock at the last meeting. I am Representative Gloria Frazier. I represent District 123, that is Burke County and parts of Richmond County in Augusta, Georgia.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. And Ms. C. Scott.
I'm Representative Scott Holcomb. I represent District 82, which is northeast DeKalb County. Thanks.
And as you see, we have a good members representation here of our meeting. Also wanted to let you know that one of the reasons that this meeting was pushed back to the 8:30 is that we were voting there in the Appropriations Committee for the amended budget 2012. We did quite well for public safety. We just want to make sure that we hold on to what was put in there. Many of you had suggested, as our subcommittee was meeting, the avenue of trying to get some additional funding in the budget for our state patrol so they could be on the road, be visible, and have the gas money. We started out at a recommendation of $200,000 from the governor. We were able to increase that another $300,000, so it's up to $500,000 to keep our troopers on the road. We've got approximately, 40 troopers that will be coming out in May? 35. I'm close. I'd like for it to be 40. We're working on the other. But we're very pleased with that. Also, with pardons and paroles and corrections, we're looking very closely at a facility over in Milledgeville, the Bostic Center. The money, the $6 million, was left in for that, so we're going forward. There were many other positive things in our amended budget that was there and passed out this morning. My understanding is that it should be online by this afternoon so that you will have a copy. It should be on our desk pretty soon so that it has only the 24 hours to wait so it can be voted on tomorrow. And we are already starting on the 2013 budget with hearings. I would like to also invite the committee members, if you would like to drop in on Monday, even though we do not go in until 1 p.m. Monday. The subcommittee on appropriations of public safety, we will be meeting at that time at 9 a.m. I don't have the room number in front of me, but just be aware that we'll be meeting, and I'll try to get that out to you in case you want to come, hear the discussion, and perhaps be a part of it. So this is going to be much harder than the amended budget as we look at it, but we need input. Don't mind talking to any of us here on this committee and get that information back so we can get it to the subcommittee, of which I am a member, and I'm proud to be there to represent us as a voice. But everybody has a voice, and I want it to be heard. So be sure to follow that budget process very closely. At this time on our agenda, okay, Representative Frazier, did you have a question?
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to just ask. I know that we're in the amending process for the budget, but was there any mention of the Department of Natural Resources, our DNR guys, that we have not done a very good job on taking care of them for the last 6 years? I know something that we have been looking into it for the last few years, but we have not done anything. So I just wanted to know, have they
There was an update in the amended budget, and I'll pass mine down because I made some notes in regards to where the DNR folks were looked at very closely. And so that's the kind of information and input we need from everybody because we have concerns, and unless people let us know those concerns, it's very hard for us to react. So thank you for that point. But there is a notation there. Hopefully you can find it in some of my scribbled notes. But the other drive, again, is getting some of this answered in the amended budget makes it much easier for us to continue that amount as we go forward in the 2013 budget. So we'll continue working on that. Any other questions from our committee members in regards to that? All right, seeing none, this morning on our agenda we have House Bill 687, and it's being brought to us by Representative Tom Taylor. And if anyone is wanting to speak to this after Representative Taylor has an opportunity to explain the bill to us, please make sure that you have signed in so that we can provide you that time. Remember our guidelines of 3 minutes. The author, you have time to explain to the extent that you need. So with that, we'll recognize Representative Taylor.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Bring before you House Bill 687. Basically, this is a bill that is supported by both the alarm industry and the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police. What this does is basically mandates that 2 calls versus 1 be made when an alarm is received in for law enforcement purposes to respond. Issues that have come up, I know the city of Sandy Springs did a study a couple of years ago where over 80% of their alarms were false, and they would dispatch law enforcement to a scene, then basically using up valuable manpower and resources to false alarms. Basically what this does is requires the alarm companies to, if practicable, get a second number for verification before law enforcement is dispatched. We have had the state fire marshal express a concern this morning. Basically, if it is a dedicated fire alarm system, that the second call not be verified so they can dispatch, and I'd like to offer at the appropriate time a committee sub for that.
Okay.
And I'll be glad to take any questions.
Any questions from our committee members in regards to House Bill 687? Representative Frazier?
I think I have a question.
Please.
Representative Taylor, if an alarm goes off, and I have an alarm system on my home, so when that first signal goes in, ordinarily they dispatch a police officer. So you're saying that because of the many false alarms that are here in Atlanta and probably throughout the state, that this is costing, I know probably it's not cost effective, but I'm concerned about suppose they can't get in touch with that first number or that second number.
They're immediately going to dispatch anyway. But what this is to say if they have dispatched or excuse me, if they have dispatched, what they will do is basically if they call the second number and said, oh, I let the dog out, they'll call off the law enforcement call. It's just a secondary attempt to verify that this is a valid alarm or a false one. They're still dispatching law enforcement.
Yeah, because see, I'm not at home, so I'm just saying, if that alarm goes off and they do the first call and the second call, we're not at home, so
they're still coming.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Representative Holcomb.
Representative Taylor, is this what we're supposed to consider the one with the markup and the heading?
Correct, and we did talk with the state fire marshal this morning, and for a dedicated fire alarm system, mostly this is directed at what I'll call law enforcement calls, for false burglar alarms or things like that. If it's a dedicated fire alarm, offers a committee sub at appropriate time that basically a fire is going to be dispatched if it's a dedicated fire alarm without delay.
Can you tell me what the NFPA is? I see that reference. I'm just not familiar with what that means.
NFPA 72, and I'll probably defer to the state fire marshal on that.
Let me enter in this. We're going to actually strike that as a recommendation from the committee and have a little bit different wording than what you see here, pardon me, as proposed to us. So at the proper time, we will have the fire marshal to come and speak with us and just sort of talk about what we're trying to do in the amended part. And we will clarify it. And if not, we'll certainly make any changes that we need to, if that's okay with you.
That works. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions? Let me also respond to, as Representative Frazier has indicated here, I was sort of surprised when this bill came to the committee because I thought all fire and alarm systems were pretty much the same throughout the state, because I've got an alarm system also, and actually when our alarm goes off, whether it's for fire or burglary or whatever it may be, I get actually 2 phone calls from our security company right behind each other. We have a password that is given, and if you don't know that password, then you can expect a knock on your door if the burglar alarm has gone off. So I was surprised that all companies didn't do it. If we're not at home, which is the same case as Representative Frazier has indicated, then they send someone right on out. And we have a contact list, too, of a neighbor or a family member, and that family member may get a call saying, you know, we have asked the police or whatever the case may be to come out by your place. So I think this is timely because it will hopefully be less funding that is necessary for our fire departments, for our police department. I know also at home, if our alarm goes off too many times, we get a little charge that we reimburse because of the fact that it may be a faulty alarm or something of that nature. But usually it's that kind of case where if it goes off several times in a short period of time, that we try to get with our police and follow up with that. So I was surprised. I am delighted that the questions have been asked this morning because I think it clarifies exactly what we're trying to do, and that's to be a little more efficient without having a big budget problem within each of our departments. But any other questions again? Representative Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was surprised to see this bill because I happened to have gotten a call this week from my office burglar alarm. And I told them, no, go to the next person on the list. We also have a pecking order of what you go to. Ours happened to be somebody working late, which we knew they were there. It automatically sets at midnight, and they were still there working, and they didn't realize that they walked down the hall. But ours did. Again, I thought everyone had something similar to that, so I do think it's a good idea. Thank you.
That's what we're finding out, which is good. Any other questions from our committee members? All right, seeing none, anyone that...
I just wanted to ask Representative Taylor, is this going to reduce my security bill now? Since yeah.
You know what? Can't speak to that. But
No.
What it does. The net effect of this is, you know, as budgets are constrained in the state and even the local levels, reduces the burden on scarce resources, law enforcement officers, and, you know, from being dispatched to false alarms.
Any additional comment from our members or questions? Good dialogue. Good dialogue. Representative Horn, I see a...
Yeah, why not?
Go ahead.
Does Chapter 35, or excuse me, Title 35, Chapter 1 require the initial phone call somewhere else? You'll have to forgive me. I didn't read the statute. This is changing, but you mentioned in your comments that this bill requires the second phone call. Is the first phone call already required by law somewhere else? It is?
The first phone call, you have to have a number to verify the call.
Because I know I've got a security system too, and I know that they always call at least once, but I'm interested to know, is the first phone call required already? I think, let's assume for a minute that it is. Now, is it true, and maybe this is a question for Mr. Rotondo, but is it true, you know, I understand what you're trying to do. We're trying to eliminate responses to false alarms, but if the police are already on patrol, do I have your permission to use the statistic you gave me? I think you said they did a study in Marietta and found that 99% of them were false
Why
alarms.
don't you come up so that you can be heard?
And I just am interested to know if you already have people out on patrol all the time anyway. I'd be interested to know maybe what percentage of those 99% of responses to false alarm are taking away from legitimate calls.
Frank, go to the mic, please.
Thank you. Members of the committee, my name is Frank Vincent Rotunda. I'm the Executive Director of the Georgia Association of Chiefs of Police. Looking at the statistical data given to me, and certainly there are other subject matter experts here, in Marietta's case, they had determined 99% of the calls were false alarm calls. These are burglar alarm calls, by using the same type of system, contacting people. Now, they're out on patrol, but basically they have to respond down, and policy usually indicates if it appears to be a legitimate call, they have to have 2 officers go down. And then when they get there, if the building is secure and there's nothing there, they have to wait for the key holders. The average time is about an hour sometimes for the key holders to get there. So that's one of the reasons. But the other reason, which is paramount to me, is officer safety. What basically happens is the young officers tend to want to go there real quick. And that becomes a little bit of a problem, especially if they're false alarms. But the flip side of that is the seasoned officer who sees 99 or 90% or 95% of the calls as being, not a valid call, has an apathetic attitude. And the one time that a call is a legitimate call, they may get hurt. So it serves a lot of purposes to save staff hours, and with 15% of an officer's time on patrol being saved by using this, that equates, in the case of Marietta, to an awful lot of hours in any department. When you get to the rural areas, such as counties, sheriff's departments, generally, they have to go from one end of the county to the other. In some of the rural areas, it takes a long time. So it equates to, once again, to staff hours.
Okay. That's fine.
All right. Any other questions to the author? All right. Seeing none, let's have those that wish to speak to the bill. If you'll just come to the podium, and can they speak? Is that mic on? That's on. So identify yourself and your point of interest.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Dwayne Garris, State Fire Marshal for the state of Georgia. The only concern I have is that the terminology fire alarm systems is used in here, and there are some provisions in our state minimum fire safety standards that require those alarms to be monitored. So you had before you, I think, some language, but I can fix the second half, which I think addresses an NFPA 72 question real easy, and that would be on line 27 after the word case of a, if you just put fire alarm in there, and then panic or robbery in progress alarm or in cases of where a crime is done. So I think that would fix everything. It'd certainly solve our problem. We have structures that can go and flash over in less than 3.5 minutes. So we need to be rolling when we have alarms going off.
We had gotten a copy of this amendment previously prior to the meeting. I want everyone to know that. So I have asked our attorney, Terry Long, to look at it and suggest how we could clarify. If I may follow with what you've said, this is what she was suggesting. If you will look, and those of you on the committee, on line 4, right after enforcement, county law enforcement, put and firefighter. Down on line 21, after burglar and between alarm, we would put R fire. On the same line 21, between enforcement and the word to, that we put R firefighter services. On line 25, we would put at the beginning on B, except as provided in C, subsection C of this code section, provided in paragraph C of this code section. So on line 25, the recommendation from our legal, it said, would be parentheses B, except as provided in subsection C of this code section.
And the rest of it? And the rest of the line?
Yeah, the rest of the line would remain the same. It would just be making a reference so that it would follow along with firefighters and burglary. Then on line 28, Carrie, why don't you read that on 27, line 27 on page 2.
As suggested by the firefighters, it would read, alarm verification shall not be required in the case of a fire alarm or a panic or robbery in progress alarm. And I would, after speaking with Frank Rotundo and the firefighter services, it's my understanding that you do not want these calls prior to a fire alarm, that there would be no prior calls?
That's correct.
Okay, that was not my understanding originally, so I would not make those changes on line 21. The other changes would remain.
So scratch out our fire that she was suggesting, and scratch out our firefighter services. So line 21 would remain exactly as it reads now. All right, Carrie, why don't you go back through what you're suggesting, following up from our State Fire Agency.
The committee sub would be to House Bill 687. On line 4, we would say preserve valuable municipal and county law enforcement and firefighter resources. On line 25, the beginning of the sentence would now say, except as provided in subsection C of this code section, an alarm monitoring company shall utilize an alarm verification system. And then on line 27, an alarm verification shall not be required in the case of a fire alarm, a panic or robbery in progress alarm, or in cases where a crime in progress has been verified, etc.
Okay.
We're amenable to that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Any additional comments or questions to the fire marshal? Representative Horn.
I just want to make sure the effect of doing this means that we'll be exempting fire calls from this requirement. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Totally.
That's why she went back and said that. And if we should adopt this amendment, if it's okay, I would like to make sure that she follows through with exactly as we are stating, is that we basically are exempting the fire alarms kind of thing, so that if there's something future, if we should adopt this, that she could go ahead and correct that for us. Any question? I think we've got it corrected, but we want to make sure. I mean, I'll be happy to bring it back to the committee, or we can, if we decide to do this.
I trust you.
Okay, with that, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we have anyone else that would like to give testimony this morning? Any comments from our members? Then I will ask if there is any consideration for this bill or amending it. I have a motion. Representative Horn.
How do you want to do this? Do you want
We
to
need
move
to
the bill
amend
and
it.
then we need to
We need to amend
first?
it, and then we will adopt a sub.
Well, I would be glad to move the amendment as stated by Ms. Long.
All right, I have a motion for the amendment as stated by our legal counsel. Do I have a second? Seeing a second. Do I have any further discussion with our members? Seeing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Seeing none, the ayes carry. So the amendment is passed. Now may I have a motion in regards to where we stand with the bill with amendment?
I would move do pass House Bill 687 LC 352375 as amended by the committee.
Do I have a second? All right, we have a motion on the floor. To any discussion? Legal counsel?
The preferred motion would be by substitute, committee substitute, rather than as amended.
Okay. All right, we have amended motion. All right, we have a substitute amended that we're voting on for House Bill 687. That's the motion. It's been seconded. So any further discussion or correction? Seeing none, I call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes carry, so it's passed by a substitute as amended, House Bill 687. We will forward this on to representative to the correct committee of rules. So we wish you luck. Any comments from our members? Thank you so very much for being here. Your attendance is greatly appreciated to each of you for being here. If someone did not get a date, an acknowledgement in regards to the meeting, please make sure that we have your email so that we can communicate with you about any committee meetings that will be from here forward. So any other comments? Seeing none, this meeting stands adjourned.